In the era of sail ships and ponies, they ran a third of the world from a few hundred people.
Is your thesis that the British colonial era, I don't want to take you out of context about the British colonial era.
What was wrong with the British colonial era?
What?
What was wrong with it?
That it's colonial.
And what was wrong with that?
Going around colonizing other countries.
Okay, and most of those countries, if they hadn't been colonized, would be what today?
They'd be so much better off.
Really?
Yes.
Have you ever been to Africa?
Are you saying Africa would be better off if we hadn't been extracted wealth from it?
You are aware that all of the railway systems, all of the infrastructure, everything that they have came from that era.
So Ireland went through a famine.
Ireland wasn't a colony.
Well,
and actually, that's again out of context.
The potato famine?
Hold on, Ireland was never a colony. And number two, the potato famine occurred at a time that there were famines all over Europe. Ireland, unfortunately, was heavily dependent on one crop.
We were exporting food from Ireland at the same time that there was a famine. Should we be exporting food from a country that's going through a famine?
Okay.
We were doing really well, like we were talking about stuff. It's the same thing with regards to America First. There's overlap in terms of we shouldn't be going around colonizing other countries.
Correct.
You're America First. You can understand that.
Yeah, to each his own.
Right?
No, we're not colonizing anybody.
We shouldn't be going and colonizing like Greenland, Canada, Mexico. You know, like these are sovereign nations. You know, we shouldn't be doing military
It's called
exercises.
unification, brother. It's not colonizing in any way, shape, or form.
But wait, so that's still America First if we go and we unify Greenland, Canada.
Hold on.
No, I like this conversation. I like this.
There are slightly different things here because he didn't say by force.
No.
He said unification. So I would make the argument that the American War of Independence was actually a civil war between English people, and we should now just admit that you guys won the war, and can I now have an American passport,
Well,
please?
thank you. Thank you for thank you. You know what? I was waiting for you to admit that we won the war, the Revolutionary War. You heard it here first, everyone.
Civil War, not
the Civil War. No, the Civil War was the Revolutionary War was a civil war, and who won?
Between the libertarian English and the feudal English.
The feudal English.
So the feudal English lost, the libertarian English won.
Okay. And I mean, if you look around today, I feel like we're going back to feudalism.
Where?
Like a neo-feudalism.
Here?
Yeah, here.
Why?
What?
Why?
We have billionaires operating as unelected representatives. They're basically feudal lords.
Well, hold on. I thought we already dealt with the Musk point. I mean, if you want to point at Jeff Bezos, we can be on the same side.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
That man had no place being on the inauguration whatsoever.
Who else shouldn't have been there?
Well, his wife. And if she was, she could have dressed a bit more respectably.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Okay, but why Musk then? Why differentiation?
Because Musk was literally on the ballot. He was at every rally saying, "This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it." So you can't say that he wasn't part of what was being voted for. Jeff Bezos, on the other hand, profiteered from turning every SME into dust during the COVID era. All the mom and pop businesses got crushed during that era, right? They got killed out. Why?
Here we go.
So that Jeff Bezos could put another 7 feet on his yacht? Fuck him.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
But that's
with regards,
corporatism versus capitalism.
But how do you stop that?
Actually, we're literally stopping that, but that's a whole other discussion.
We're stopping it through Doge?
No.
How?
We built an actual blockchain.
Who are you here with?
We're here with our high school.
I'm sorry, but you're on camera. How old are you?
We're 18. We're both 18.
Okay. Just to get another way. So wait, why? Your high school sent you here?
We're high school seniors.
Oh wait, did your high
We're on a school trip.
Oh, very cool. I've never done that as a school trip.
Yeah, we're taking a history class called Rise of the Right in American Politics. So we're learning about sort of like how the conservative and sort of like the far right movement has like taken shape recently in America.
Well, this is a fantastic place to study it.
Yeah, totally.
This is the best place I could possibly think of.
Yeah.
I've been coming here for several years, and there's not a better place to study it. Oh, thank you. So what have you learned so far?
I mean, it's definitely been interesting to see like I think growing up in like New York City, I've like experienced like a lot of like one end of the political spectrum. So it's definitely interesting to see the other end.
I encourage a lot of people to go out and get outside the bubble. That's the problem, is no one knows what the other side is saying until it's way too late. Like in these conspiracies, we don't know about them until they're mainstream, and then suddenly it's like it's too late. Every officer there was outnumbered at least 10 to 1. At any given moment, 10 to 1. The officers
and
there.
that was by their superior's choice. They chose not to bring them there. They got an officer force at the time of 2,000 officers. Captain Mendoza, who's now inspector, really stupid, she shouldn't have been promoted, admitted that only 360 people she called in for that day, despite all the warnings that they said, oh, something terrible is gonna happen. And on top of that, all the counties which they regularly bring in for big protests, Prince George's, which I think we're right here, Virginia State Troopers, told them, no, you wait out there. And as we know, they denied the National Guard.
That was actually a miss, because that was hearsay. And there's also tons of other footage of everyone else, Congress people desperately trying to call in reinforcements.
This is such a complicated day, but you know what's very interesting, and I think it's worth digging into more. William Pope's prosecutors admitted, and as early as 2023, on court docket, that at least those 2 plainclothes officers were right up at the front telling people to go past the barricades, go up the stairs.
Of all the things that never happened, that never happened the most. At the end of the day, you were there. I was there.
Had the best day of my life.
That was the best day.
It was so fun. It just felt like you're living in a modern day Boston Tea Party, but it was so much more or less damaging. Like,
why was it a tea party? It
felt like it was a spirit. Yeah, and it was beautiful. It was the American spirit there. It's like, hey, a lot of people were kind of pissed off, at the moment. It's like, yeah.
I was at Capitol Hill on January 6th.
I'm the most recently released January 6er. I got out on Valentine's Day. I spent an additional 26 days after receiving my pardon being transferred to 7 different federal facilities all over the country for a nonviolent misdemeanor traffic infraction.
Well, the J6ers, they're getting arrested for child porn.
What's a lot? What's a lot? There's been,
okay,
I know
more than one. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. I mean, there's 1,600 J6ers. They're
bound to be some child porn in there.
Well, I mean, J6. The defendants represent a large swath.
Should Trump pardon them for the other things?
I think child pornographers and child sex offenders should be put to death immediately. I don't believe that a pardon for something so heinous, so violent and disgusting is warranting of a pardon that's a reflection of the injustices that we endured.
I was actually at January 6th.
Yeah.
I was on Capitol Hill on January 6th. So I saw everything. So I get really upset when people are like, oh, it was peaceful and nonviolent and everything.
So you would say what would you say? It was violent? It was a violent day?
I watched it. I was there.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
I saw doors get ripped off, and people were like, it was peaceful and it was all Antifa.
No, it certainly wasn't all Antifa. It definitely wasn't. I mean,
you've all gotten your pardons. You can be honest now.
Yeah, no, I've got no incentive to do anything other than to tell the truth. And the truth is, the protest was overwhelmingly peaceful until, whether we want to call them the FBI assets, the
there's no proof of the FBI being there.
No. So an FBI confidential human source is paid by the FBI to be there. Not all 16, but at least 3 of them were. And that's enough. My statement regarding that, we can talk about that all day. Overwhelmingly, it was a peaceful event. There was a protest that got out of hand, and the protest got out of hand because what I witnessed was the Metro PD and the Capitol Police using wanton aggression against overwhelmingly nonviolent protesters like myself.
I was there. I can see like
they could have kept it calm.
It wasn't calm.
Would have done her job and secured the Capitol.
Nancy Pelosi is not in charge of the Capitol. Donald Trump is in charge of Capitol Hill.
Did he or did he not?
It's not
additional federal troops.
Hours later.
No, well, actually,
hours later.
The night before, I got a notification from CNN that said DC Mayor Muriel Bowser said no additional federal troops are needed.
Yeah, all of that's been debunked.
It's all been debunked.
It's all been debunked. It wasn't Nancy Pelosi. It's not Capitol Hill's not the Vatican. Donald Trump can send in troops whenever he wants.
That's not wrong.
How you doing? Tell me how you can exist as a MAGA Republican and a member of the LGBTQ community.
Well, here at Log Cabin Republicans, we believe in common sense. We're common sense conservative, just like anyone else can be a conservative. We believe in individual freedoms and rights for all, and we want the government out of our business. That's why we support President Trump. We know he supports us.
But the problem is that Trump has very much been the Republican Party. They have done more to take away individual rights and freedoms from LGBTQ than, than anyone.
I would disagree with that. Trump has been the first president, when he took office in 2017, to support same-sex marriage on day one. Not President Clinton, not Barack Obama, President Trump. I'll also mention that he has hosted same-sex weddings at Mar-a-Lago. He's very much in support of the LGBT and the T.
Why queer erasure? I don't get it.
I mean, we believe that the LGBT is inclusive.
Why not Q, QIA?
We don't use that label.
Why?
We refer to ourselves as gay or bisexual or lesbian.
I mean, because usually when people are doing the erasure, it's usually bi erasure or trans erasure. So I just thought it was funny because queer erasure, I don't see that.
I mean, people who identify as queer usually are gay or bisexual. The bisexual umbrella covers that sort of sexual orientation spectrum.
Can I come around? I just think it's funny here. There's a lot of T erasure and bi erasure, but to do queer erasure, I think is just funny. But I'm glad you're not doing bi erasure because there's a lot of that. The information is out there. There's an entire list of everything he did to negatively impact the LGBTQ community while in office, while he came to office again this time. So I mean, it's been extensive. It's not. There's no real nuance to it. He might have people around him that are members of that community, but by and large, everyone here is against this.
No, I would disagree with that assertion.
I mean, they call gay people groomers. Like calling gay people. I don't like language that makes your identity seem like a virus.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, they started the groomer. Everyone here started the whole groomer thing, and that makes this community sound like a virus. And which is the most dangerous thing I could think of in terms of rhetoric. I see you as a human being. You were born this way. You came to this just naturally, but you came to your identity naturally. To say that it was a virus that was instituted by our education system and our gender ideology, I think is incredibly dangerous rhetoric towards the LGBTQ community.
Well, I think what you're referring to is Gays Against Groomers. That is not our organization. They're a separate.
That is a MAGA. Yeah, but all of them are MAGA. And that is under the umbrella of MAGA.
I mean, yeah, they would call themselves MAGA.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to Trump for a second. He supports same-sex marriage. That's not under threat. And he supports people like Caitlyn Jenner to use the bathroom of their choice in his property.
The actions of his entire administration, revoking Title IX, Title X, and rolling back all of the rights gained by Title IX and Title X, say the exact opposite. So I'm always confused as to why you're here when, these people don't like you. If you were a teacher, if you were a school teacher, they would feel threatened by that. You would not get to talk about your same-sex partner.
They would treat me the same as everyone else.
Everyone here regards the LGBTQ identity as more sexual. And their entire thing has been.
My whole identity isn't me being gay. I'm not parading that around. That's just a part of me.
Yes, and you should be able to. You should not be persecuted for your identity. The only persecution for your identity that I have seen has been from this room. And that is, so that's why it's baffling to me.
We've gotten love and acceptance for years having a booth here. So I don't know where you're seeing that, but I haven't been seeing it.
Have you asked people about how they feel about the gay community, gay people teaching their children, gay people being their son's football coach, gay people working in the library of their school, books on gay identity, queer identity, pronouns? We could run the gamut. And these people would be incredibly incensed by all of that. I don't want to go around and ask people if they hate you, because I don't want to do that too. But that's it makes no sense to me. Just for the record, I don't care who you voted for. If you were being persecuted, I would be out in the streets to advocate for your rights and based on your identity, personally. I would.
You have the right to do that.
But I'm saying, like, so I'm not going to not advocate for your rights in that regard. I want to, but so that's the part that is just confusing to me, that like the conservative movement has historically been against progress for LGBTQ. If you're like a multimillionaire and this was like a financial decision, I would totally get it. Like Peter Thiel, it's a financial decision.
Yeah, Peter Thiel's gay, and he's a successful businessman. What I'll say is, if you do go around this room and ask people what they really think, they're gonna say that they don't care, because it doesn't really impact them. What they will say, though, is that they don't want radical gender theory, critical race theory, none of that entering their children's classrooms, because that doesn't pertain to civics education, what their children should be learning.
They've done an amazing job in the culture war. It's actually brilliant. Those are very general terms that they can weaponize when they see fit. What is gender ideology? What is critical race theory? What is woke? And then when they see something that is slightly, you know, in representation of the gay community, they can be like, oh, that thing. And they're against social emotional learning. They've used those terms and weaponized it against social emotional learning, teaching of empathy. Like when a guidance counselor will teach kids, oh, Emily has 2 moms. How can we show empathy for her? Moms for Liberty is like wholesale against that.
Well, I can't speak to what Moms for Liberty stands for.
Yeah, but this is Moms for Liberty. This is the same tent that you're under.
Yeah, we all support President Trump.
Where are you guys going? Oh, they're about to get kicked out? Okay. Who's next? Who's next? What? Yeah, sure. I was gonna get a DEI. I was gonna go after that. Is there a problem, sir?
Can you see your credentials real quick?
These are real.
Can you take it off for me?
These are real credentials. I came here.
Is this your person over here?
What? I'm not with them. Excuse me. I'm not with them. I'm not with this person.
Your credentials, please. From my understanding, CPAC has asked you guys to leave, so we're gonna need to walk out. Do you have your IDs with you?
Why is CPAC asking me to leave? I'm here legally. I came here legally.
Okay.
Are we given a reason for being asked?
No, but I can give you an email address that you can email and ask them all those questions.
Yeah, I thought we liked freedom of speech, freedom of press, First Amendment.
I applied for a press pass just like everyone else. And now I'm having my press credentials stripped. Yeah, this is the Republican Party. This is the free speech First Amendment Party.
Good.
I'm being kicked out, so I've really just asked people a few hard questions, and then now I'm being tossed. Oh well, pretty funny actually.
Are you going back into the hotel, or are you guys just gonna leave?
I'm not saying.
I'm gonna stay outside and get some interviews.
Okay. All right.
So I'm gonna go right like to where the boundary is, and I'm gonna get interviews and stuff, and get content.
Do you have are you driving a vehicle here?
No.
You drove a vehicle here?
No.
All right, so if you didn't drive, you can actually leave out this exit right here.
Why are we being kicked out?
That's a good question.
I'm sure you don't know.
So
Do you know why we're being kicked out?
out?
I don't. We need to keep walking though. Are you guys going? You want to go out through the lobby?
We can go that way. Let's go that way. No, let's go out that way. Oh no, I have to leave. This is. No, I want to exit that way. I don't want to go out that way. I can't exit out that way.
Because now I'm about to get real frustrated and irritated. All right? You can leave out this way. Okay?
Out, man. Why are you getting kicked out?
It's the free speech convention's kicking me out, you know?
No! What do you think about Matt Schlapp?
What?
What do you think about Matt Schlapp?
Matt Schlapp?
Yeah.
Oh, the guy who like sexually harassed and sexually assaults people? That guy. Yeah. Hilarious.
Why'd you come here? Why'd you come here?
What? It's content, you know? Comedy. Did I get what I wanted? That's a great question. Came here to make comedy, and I didn't make the comedy that I wanted to make. I didn't make as much comedy as I wanted to make, But thank you for your concern.
We are concerned. We like free speech here, so
Yeah.
who does? But
Free speech so much.
Yeah, so if you like free speech, tell the people that run CPAC and the MAGA movement. Yeah.
They said I could just get it later. I'm like, it is 30, it's 20 degrees outside.
Yeah, literally.
Are they getting it for you?
We'll be heading home soon. We got kicked out of CPAC. Yeah, for nothing. I mean, we were literally interviewing people, not being belligerent, being friendly. And then I saw Secret Service agents one by one surrounding us. I told Walter, I said, something happened. Pretty sure something happened. And then they came up and said, yeah, you gotta leave. You're being kicked out. What, for what? You gotta go. And then like fucking 4 cops and 5 Secret Service agents kicked me and Walter, the camera guy. When we first went there was 6 MAGA hatters. They were kind of looking at us funny, like they recognized us. And then I saw them go up and tell one of the event staff something. I was like, I don't think they're talking about us. And as he was coming back by, I was like, hey man, do you want to do an interview? And then he was like, no, that's sketchy. So then when we got inside and I was interviewing the men's equality guy, I saw the one lady come up and she kept looking at me, punching in her phone. Then I saw another guy with the earpiece come up and I was just, and off the corner, I saw another, and they kept coming. I was like, oh yeah, something's going down. So they just kicked us out. It's free speech, of course.
They tossed Enrique Tarrio, the head of the Proud Boys.
J6ers.
They tossed J6.
I got it on film, by the way. I got it on film. I'll be posting that. I was interviewing the guy who put his feet up on Pelosi's desk at J6. I mean, I shouldn't even say interviewing. I was literally about to interview. And then the Secret Service came up and told him, like, oh, you're getting kicked out. So, oh, you're getting kicked out. And I was watching it. And then the guy turned to me and goes, so are you? And what the fuck? Me? I'm not a J6er. I'm not a Proud Boy. I'm independent me. I got a media pass.
None of this makes sense.
None of it makes sense.
I was gonna wait till tomorrow to get really aggressive.
Right. To be honest, we were gonna like, you know, do some satire and fucking troll people a little bit tomorrow. But today we were being good.
I got tossed too. Wait, why'd they toss you?
In indignity to the American people.
No, wait, why'd they toss y'all?
We have no idea. They will not allow Jake Lang at CPAC.
Well, wait, are these J6 people?
Jake Lang is one of the biggest J6ers out there, and they will not allow him back in CPAC right now. He has a booth in there. He paid for 20 tickets for J6ers. They took his money, and they won't allow him in CPAC.
Yeah, we got booted too.
So that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I can understand why they tossed me. You guys should definitely be in there.
All right, let's rock and roll. You guys who don't want to freeze, stay, relax, enjoy, take all the contacts you can.
Wait, do you guys know why Enrique got kicked out? Why did he get kicked out?
Communism.
Communism.
Yeah.
This gentleman was assaulted.
Wait.
This gentleman was assaulted by one of the officers.
Wait, why did they assault you? Why did they assault you?
Who are you guys with? I'm sorry.
I just got kicked out. I'm a comedian from New York.
Okay, yeah, my name's Isaac. All I did was, as Jake was being escorted out, I said, this is communism. And then the officer looked at me and said, do you want to say that again? And get kicked out too? And I said, yeah, I said, this is communism. There's nothing wrong with that. And he said, hand me your badge. So I said, no, I paid for this. He said, that's the property of CPAC, and started grabbing on me. And then I said, okay, I'd like to leave, sir. I'd like to leave. I went to leave out the other door. They blocked the doors from me, grabbed the lanyard by my neck, and ripped it off my neck.
Wait, say it louder. Louder.
Fuck CPAC. Communist. CPAC communist.
You got kicked out better than us.
I did. They treated me really nice. My security guard's name is Bartholomew. I named him that, and it was fitting, and he liked it. And they walked me like all the way over to the lobby. Like they helped me get my coat, and I was like, "Can I take a minute and get my coat on and get situated?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead."
See, so, they made us use the bad exit. I was like, I want to go. I want to use the good exit where I can just walk into an Uber.
It's good to know CPAC still treats ladies with respect.
Don't say that. Don't.
We're gonna edit that out. Yeah.
I mean, they dragged me out back. They beat me.
Oh yeah, there we go.
They married me off to a Proud Boy.
Think about it. They're going against what President Trump pardoned these guys.
Yeah.
Right. So why do you think that we kick them out?
Because they're establishment conservatives and don't actually care about our country. They care about their money, their power, and their fame.
You're so close, man. I gotta give it to you. You were very close. Thank you for that. Why'd you get kicked out?
Well, we didn't get kicked out. What ended up happening is I didn't get let in, which is two different things. But we got called in because they're gonna They're gonna give me my ticket now.
There's a bunch of people from J6 that just got tossed. They just got tossed, and they had a whole booth, and they were like famously tossed.
Did you see what happened with Jake?
What just happened? They were just telling me.
What did
This time with 5 police officers.
What did?
They said because he caused a disruption yesterday that they don't want to repeat. Mind you, we were here all day. Like, we were here for hours yesterday. We were folding T-shirts. There was no disruption until
that happened.
Until they came over.
That's not part of the video.
And we're literally pushing and shoving him and Rachel.
We all got thrown out at the same. I understand why they throw me out. I don't understand why they threw you guys out. It doesn't make any sense.
Why they throw you out?
I'm not MAGA, so I can understand them not wanting me, but I don't understand why I saw a video of you getting tossed. You're with the J6 booth?
I'm a J6er, yes.
Do you know why they got booted out?
It's a controversy between the J6 community, and we're divided a little bit.
What's the division about?
People don't want us here. That's all I'm going to say.
I can understand, Nick Fuentes getting thrown out because he says the quiet.
I think at this point, Nick loves getting thrown out.
Well, he says the quiet part a little too loud. You know what I mean? He's like, all right, we're not supposed to say that out loud, and so he gets like famously tossed.
I've never seen the guy with a woman before, so.
You know what? That is a fantastic point.
The log cabin Republicans are here.
He should. I mean,
he should just come out.
I'm gonna get smoked for smoking this guy, but I don't care. He should join the log cabin Republicans.
One question: do you think a man with the last name Nick Fuentes is qualified to be a white supremacist? You know what I mean? Like,
I kind of agree on the left with this. Ideology is ideology when we're talking about like white supremacist ideology. Race superiority. It's not your skin color. You could have like those ideologies and be any color, right?
So the white supremacist movement is inclusive.
I kind of want to gatekeep white supremacy. It's kind of my thing.
Well, you guys is too much.
Yeah.
You
No, I'm
guys.
saying, is it DEI then?
I'm guessing there could be some DEI. With it.
It's DEI. Oh, it is
All right,
DEI.
I gotta go meet with the guys.
Oh my God. Oh, I got enough content. This is great. I got enough content. That was great. So, Jolly, you want to go shoot some guns tomorrow? I want to shoot some guns tomorrow.
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go shoot some. We're gonna go.
Walter to shoot an AR-15, an AR pistol, maybe a.
Wait, AR makes a pistol. Okay. We're training for the revolution today.
Yes.
Hey, what's in there, man?
AR-15 and a couple 9mm.
Look, this happened because they kicked us out of CPAC.
Don't say they don't care. I don't know who these people. My hands up crazy now. And load, right? Protect this figure. Push down a little bit. And load, all right? So I'm gonna get. What is that?
What we got?
Three's already in. There you go.
Me. Also me.
Medium, if the way it's loaded.
Second. Third time.
That's such a good video.
We are in disbelief and feel re-traumatized by the news that the Romanian authorities have given in to pressure from the Trump administration to allow Andrew Tate to travel.
Bro, what are the Romanians supposed to do? If the Trump administration says, yeah, free him, like, we're talking about Romania. Americans do this in Japan, okay? All right, let's get back to Andrew Tate.
Smiles and Diplo speak you saw at the top of the program there from Washington. The scene from Florida could not highlight in starker terms the divergent worldviews.
Perhaps that's the reason why Sam Hyde doesn't talk about Israel too much, even though he is literally a rabid anti-Semite. And many of his fans, wait, what? I'm aware that being around Destiny at the moment is very questionable. I wanted to meet him despite people's valid criticisms. I'm aware that this is a bad look, and posting a photo with him will upset many people. Not the best decision on my part. What are we doing, man? All right, let's just get to Andrew Tate.
Of former human rights lawyer turned Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and US President Donald Trump. 3 years ago, the self-proclaimed misogynist and controversial online influencer Andrew Tate and his brother were arrested in Romania and they face a number of both civic and criminal cases for allegations of trafficking minors and money laundering, all of which they deny. Now, up until now, the Romanians have not let them leave the country. Then all of a sudden, that changed. And this morning, they're on a private jet on their way over to Florida. They landed just over an hour ago. This is what they had to say.
This is a democratic society. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, as my brother and I are. And I think it's extremely important that we stop allowing media spin, wrap-up smears, lies, or carefully constructed narratives from George Soros-funded operations trying to destroy the reputations of good people who have no intention to do anything other than follow the law.
I should just say that mention there of George Soros, the billionaire philanthropist name, who's often invoked by members of the far right, has been at the heart of multiple conspiracy theories.
Is it at this point? Is it far right at this point? I feel like we've literally, the needle has moved, man. Like Andrew Tate has said a unimaginable amount of anti-Semitic nonsense. That, like, him saying George Soros is probably the least anti-Semitic shit that he said about Jewish people. Not to say that the invocation of George Soros is not anti-Semitic, but simply to say how many insane things he said about Jewish people. And not just Jews either, just in general, across the board, everything. He is on the wrong side of virtually every political subject. It's basically gotten to a fucking point where like people that use dog whistles still, okay, people that use dog whistles still to this day are ironically kinder than the average that sees no reason to use dog whistles. This isn't to say that those guys are in the right or anything, obviously. Lol, Taylor Swift said the same thing, but the vid did not gain attention. Taylor Swift talked about George Soros? What? Yeah, you might as well. Society is so fucking far right now that if you're using dog whistles, you're basically woke Antifa at this point. I'd love a Hassan Andrew Tate stream. Listen, brother, last time he did that, he went to jail. So I don't think you want that smoke.
Quite a change of heart from the Romanians.
Yeah, well, the answer to that may also lie in Washington. So just over a week ago, it was reported that representatives of Donald Trump's administration were pressuring Romania to lift the travel ban. Now, neither the US or Romania have commented that. The Oval Office there, Sir Keir Starmer said he'd look into it. Donald Trump said he didn't know anything about it. But lo and behold, their first port of call on the travel ban being lifted was the US. Now, I caught up with the Secretary of State for Innovation and Science this morning, so Peter Kyle. The first thing I asked him was, Andrew Tate and his influence, is that a threat?
We think that Andrew Tate is not a force for good in the world, and if there are criminal charges that are outstanding against him, then we want you to make sure that there is a way for him to be, for those victims to have their voice heard. But for those people who are alleged to have committed crimes, then those victims must be put first and foremost, and their voices must be heard.
You may think it's a threat, but Donald Trump
intervene and press the Romanians to allow him to travel to the US?
I don't know the details of what has happened, but as I say, we in this country, but particularly the Prime Minister, who has introduced legislation to protect victims, cares very, very deeply about those people who might allegedly be victims. Their voices are very, very important, and in situations like this, they must be listened to as well as the voices of those people who are accused of committing crimes.
We may not know the exact details of his flight, but when it comes to the likes of Andrew Tate, you clearly have wildly different views on him to the President of the United States, who we're currently trying to negotiate trade deals with, and how we tackle AI. You are nowhere near in line with the President of the United States, are you?
I have different views from every single person I meet every day because we're all individuals. Different countries have different priorities. The Prime Minister is out there in America putting Britain's national interests first, as is the President of the United States. But that doesn't mean that we can't find points of agreement.
In Florida, after a long...
Of course you're in the Florida. It's the #1 spot for sex criminals, dude. #1 spot for cryptocurrency hawkers galore.
Flight from Romania, Andrew Tate was as combative as ever.
It's innocent until proven guilty, and I think my brother and I are largely misunderstood. There's a lot of opinions about us, a lot of things that go around about us on the internet. We've yet to be convicted of any crime in our lives ever.
Did Donald Trump help get the travel ban lifted?
The social media influencer is a big fan of the US president. In Romania a month ago, this was his message to his millions of internet followers.
Donald Trump is the future of the Western world. Everybody knows it, and everybody needs to get in line and obey him. He runs the world, and he's a good friend of mine, and I'm going to help him.
The Trump administration, it was reported recently, pressed the Romanians to lift the brothers' travel ban. A Tate insider said the brothers had been allowed to travel to the United States for a month on business and would return to Romania, where they faced human and organised crime charges.
Fucking
They're also wanted by UK police on similar allegations.
The fact that Donald Trump would align himself with one of the world's worst alleged human traffickers is just gobsmacking.
The Prime Minister's meeting him today. He's got a message.
He's got big shoes to fill.
Clowns. They got clown shoes to fill.
The last guy that did this famously in Florida is now dead, okay? So what if he just doesn't go back? Your audience is just a bunch of self-hating white people. Your streams are a safe space for them. You ever get tired of hating white people in the West? That's my answer to you. I welcome this though. I miss these kinds of haters, because recently every single person has been like, you are not nice enough about my favorite apartheid state. This is like some OG shit. You're an anti-white racist. Yeah, okay, dude. Well, I'm white, dumbass. Shut up.
Stand up for these British women who have alleged horrible crimes against Andrew Tate, these victims of alleged multiple rapes and human. Stand up for them and stand up to Donald Trump on this issue.
The lawyer hopes to get Andrew Tate into the UK civil courts as well, where he's being sued over claims by 4 women. They said in a joint statement, "We are in disbelief and feel re-traumatized by the news that the Romanian authorities have given into pressure from the Trump administration to allow Andrew Tate to travel."
Bro, what are the Romanians supposed to do?
I think he's got going
if
for
the
him.
Trump administration says, yeah, free him. Like, we're talking about Romania.
Put down like a rabid dog.
Americans do this in Japan. Okay, the American government literally actively does this in Japan for soldiers that have not only people, but also have killed people who have also been convicted of raping people and killing people. And the American government goes, come on, release them. Send them to us. Don't delete this VOD, please. Wait, what? Why? Why would I delete this VOD? None of my VODs get deleted. You can come back and watch my anti-white racism every single day if you would like to do so. It's like, don't delete this VOD, please. I would like to go back to this moment.
Around Europe and to the US. The Tates say they've been given back cars and other seized assets, as well as their temporary freedom. The brothers are former kickboxers with joint US and UK nationality. They're controversial figures who flaunt their wealth and lavish lifestyle on social media. Influential to a generation of young men, to others crude, sexist and misogynistic. The Tates deny all the allegations against them. A Romanian judge had agreed to the brothers being extradited to the UK, but only after their trial in Bucharest.
If the police want to get hold of the Tate brothers because they face criminal charges here in the UK, yes, I would expect those extradition treaties to be used.
If they don't go back to Romania, a new extradition request may have to be sent to the United States. Martin Brunt, Sky News.
President Trump, Andrew and Tristan Tate landed in Florida today on a private jet after being released from custody in Romania. They are accused rapists, human traffickers, not thought of as good people in many circles. Did your administration pressure the Romanian government to release them, and if so, why?
I know nothing about that. I don't know. You're saying he's on a plane right now?
He's back. They already did.
Yeah, I just know nothing about it. We'll check it out. We'll let you know.
I do. Look, obviously this involves, there's an English element here, so obviously it's important that justice is done, and human trafficking is obviously, to my mind, a security risk, and so we'll catch up with the story in due course.
You're aware.
My problem is what you currently are saying, okay? Not what you have done in the past, but instead what you chose to do after. One of the grossest things I've seen from that community is constantly saying, you're pulling the genocide card. You want to know something really sad about that? Half of the instances where I was like, there's a genocide going on, chatters, I don't think this is relevant, was actually me defending Ethan. That's what's so stupid about it, because for the entire year, I didn't pay attention to what the he was saying about Aaron Bushnell, for example. I had no idea what he was saying because I thought it was unproductive. I kept repeating over and over again, foolishly, mind you, telling my chat not to care or consider what Ethan Klein was saying because there were more important things that were happening, like the genocide that was happening that we were covering. And that's what's really interesting about it. Now, cynically, he just uses all of those instances as he calls it the genocide card. Well, we're talking directly about the genocide. So maybe make an assessment on all of the instances where you've talked about Israel and Gaza and why you have so heavily focused on all of the people that are critical of Israel, okay? It's so gross that people even say the genocide card, you know? Careful for the next scary IG story incoming. I know. Like, not even a second where Ethan Klein or his community of otherwise progressive or what remains of his community and what remains of his community that used to be progressive, ever think pull the genocide card is an insane thing to say. It is not a card that I'm using to deflect away from serious criticism. It's me quite literally saying, eyes on the prize. There is something more important happening here that you should be focusing on rather than petty ass drama. And for the better part of this past year, that was me telling my community not to focus on whatever Ethan Klein was saying because I thought it was silly and unproductive. I kept repeating over and over again, hey, he posted on Instagram in 2021 about how he was critical of Israel. How foolish was I? Holy shit. Become a hateful, abusive, narcissistic monster over the course of a year. He did not understand that I was trying to defend him when we had those conversations, when I kept telling him like, hey, don't say stuff like this. I know you're pro-Palestine. Don't say stuff like this. People are going to misunderstand you. Turns out I was wrong. Yeah, in the words of Shonda Black, if your N-word compilation is longer than your advocacy for the Palestinian emancipatory movement, then you probably aren't pro-Palestine.
Nobody can have any nuanced conversation about this.
Responding to criticisms over his mockery of Aaron Bushnell, Ethan Klein launches into a tirade directly out of the Hasbro playbook before inadvertently betraying his own cynical pandering. Why would you call me a Zionist when I have said all the things you want to hear from me?
That's the problem. You know what I mean? So extreme.
My first reaction is this. It was absolutely insane how he stood the whole time. That was crazy. I don't even know how that's humanly possible. Again, not to put this uncouth, but he's a champ at burning a lot. I mean, that sounds bad, but he did it really good. Does that bad sound bad? We have to make levity of things. Does that sound bad that he was really good? I mean that as a compliment. What the are you guys angry about, you weirdos? What did I do? My God, stop. They're just saying, all I hear is Ethan, no, but I don't understand what I've even said. Oh, chewing? Yeah, I'll stop that. Maybe they're just talking about the chewing. Could that be? Yeah, that's probably it. Wait, what did I even say that to mean? Give me a break. Holy shit. Didn't the guy do it because he wanted people to talk about it? That's what I'm doing. My point is this. First of all, I was stunned by the way that he stood through the whole thing. I mean, shit, that was wild. And really showed his true resolve to protest in that way. I can only imagine this.
Yeah, this was when there was backlash in his community towards a lot of the things that he was saying. Backlash that was organic, by the way, not backlash that I directed, because at the time when people would send me clips like this, I was like, I'm not going to watch that. I don't care. Okay? Just so you understand. At the time when members of his community would come in here because, post leftovers, people would be like, look at what Ethan said again. He's a Zionist, I promise. Okay? And I was like, hey guys, there's a genocide happening. I'm going to cover that instead. I don't really care about what Ethan Klein is saying about Israel or Palestine. He is not your enemy. And that's what I said over and over again for a year. Unimaginably charitable. And what did he do after all of that? He came after every single pro-Palestinian voice that was around me, that had ever worked with me in any capacity. And then he came after me too. And how did he come after me? With the most ridiculous clips. With the most ridiculous clips claiming that I was, scary, hate America, only have America bad perspectives, using some of the silliest sourcing I've ever seen in my entire life. There's a point in which he says, when we were having a back and forth about the Uyghur re-education camps, where he's like, oh, well, aren't they organ harvesting and doing death camps and killing millions of Uyghurs? And I'm like, no, they're re-education camps, which I think is unacceptable, okay? And that those re-education camps have actually closed down, according to an Associated Press article. He turned around and acted like there was no Associated Press article. Dog, that's your fault. You didn't Google it. And what you did end up Googling didn't even correspond to the evidence that you suggested that the concentration camps, the death camps, were still ongoing. He was using newer articles that were working on information from prior to our conversation. Wonderful stuff. That's what happens when you spend 6 months on ChatGPT trying to craft a compelling narrative about things that you don't understand. I heard some of the things that he said in his video, like how 1 million Israelis were displaced during the Nakba, which he calls the War of Israeli Independence, by the way. Okay? Not 1 million Israelis, sorry. 1 million Jews were displaced forcibly. More Jews were displaced during the Nakba than Palestinians, he said. That is the highest level of being misinformed. At that point, I don't even know if you're a Zionist or just a moron, okay? That's what he said. And his dumbass audience of progressive individuals ate that shit up. That's what I'm frustrated by. That's what I'm insanely frustrated by. Because Ethan Klein, for better or for worse, did cultivate a relatively progressive community. And now he's just a Hasbara bot farming that community into a more reactionary position on a genocide for an apartheid state. An apartheid state that he lived in and hated when he lived there. It's crazy. Like, the level of historical revisionism in his anti-Hassan video is so insane. And people still unironically repeat that. Liberal-minded people repeat that. That is what frustrates me. People who are otherwise progressive turning around and being like, oh my God, if everything Ethan is saying in this video is true, and he says he's pro-Palestinian, then yeah, maybe there is definitely a lot of lying and obfuscation happening on Hassan's side. Insane. Literally has the Hamas Piker meme in the background of his entirety of his new video. Yeah, of course, that kind of shit it flies. Like no one will ever bat an eye at that. Okay, no one will ever bat an eye at that, dude. But God forbid you say Sabra hummus is dog shit. Oh my God, it's the peak of anti-Semitism. I stubbed my toe. This must be Hassan's anti-Semitism. People don't want to collaborate with me no more. Not because I've had an extended crash out in public in the funniest and saddest ways possible that everyone can see, but most people are still too afraid to ever openly disparage because you sick your fan base on everyone, no matter how big or small, including anonymous Redditors who are former fans of yours trying to engage in frivolous lawsuits to just expressly dox people. Not because you think you're going to win these defamation suits, but specifically because you want to dox them and then openly talking about how you're going to tell every random person's immediate family members and places of employment that they're actually anti-Semitic for the crime of criticizing you.
There was more Jew.
What is this? Disinformation tracker content nuke part 2. Ethan lied for Israel.
The 1940s.
Ever broke just a...
He claimed yesterday that you crashed out and you needed intervention and that you live a sadly lonely life just streaming. Yeah. If I'm crashing out because I responded to one goddamn tweet, if I tweeted twice, okay, because I saw something that I consider to be a bridge too far, which is obviously this tweet. If this tweet is crashing out, what the is doing Instagram posts every single day and 8 or 10 videos virtually covering me every single podcast? What the is that? We need a new term for that. If one tweet after months and months of endless chirping is a crash out, what the is this? Yeah, look at this crash out where I said, no way, the guy who ended his podcast over disagreements on Israel's genocide, who spent the last year trying to get every pro-Palestinian voice banned, is visiting Israel like Michael Rappaport. He's going to show us all that there's no apartheid. He even mentions me in this. He can't seem to get my name out of his goddamn mouth.
We're planning to go to Israel in June with my parents and all the kids. It's going to be such a great trip. And I'm actually really excited to go there. I want to show you guys.
You haven't been there in so long.
It's been a long time. What I want to do is show you guys how I see Israel, because you don't see that when you listen to Hassan and you hear all these mega lefties talking about it like it's some super racist.
Yeah, dude, it's so crazy that these mega lefties like Hassan are calling Israel an apartheid state. I wonder what other mega leftists have called Israel an apartheid state. Oh, that's right, Nelson Mandela, dude. I don't know. I feel like he knows a thing or two about apartheid, don't you think? Mega leftist, dude. Nelson Mandela in Palestine, in his own words, on the 30th anniversary since his release from prison, the late South African leader remains an icon for the Palestinians. This was all the way back in 2020, this 30-year anniversary, okay? I don't care about all the petty shit, okay? I don't care about all the petty shit. I do, however, care about, especially when we have a fascist administration with numerous tossing Sig Heils left and right as the administrative state is being blown to bits by billionaire parasites. I do care about one of the last remaining progressive communities turning into a reactionary shithole because they're following the whims of a narcissistic madman who can't let go of his love and loyalty to this apartheid state, this settler colonial apartheid state currently conducting a genocide. That is a bridge too far, okay? He openly stated that the PLO, he openly stated his support for the Palestinian Liberation Organization during a town hall meeting in the U.S. broadcast on the ABC channel. At the time, it was still regarded as a terrorist organization by U.S. and Israel, okay? If you made an effort post video that does a historical dissection of the Hasbara slop, someone like Zach Foster, it would go so hard. Yeah, we identify with the PLO because just like ourselves, they are fighting for the right of self-determination. Arafat is a comrade in arms, and we treat him as such. In a 1977 speech on International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, Mandela reaffirmed his support for Palestinian rights. We know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. The city in the West Bank, occupied Palestinian land, the same city that Ethan and Gila called a terrorist city, the city of Ramallah, okay? There is a Nelson Mandela statue. How ridiculous. I'm ashamed that there are so many people that straight up just drop all of this stuff the moment that Ethan decided every single person that is a defender of Palestinian emancipation is bad and a terrorist, okay? It's shocking. It's shocking how that turn happened. Like, what happened to individual thinkers? What happened to progressive-minded people? He just purged them from his community, and then in the process, those who remained, I guess, were just rabid sycophants.
It's like crazy, like Jim Crow style of society. Like, I can't wait to show you.
Yeah. Remember, he's talking about Israel. The mega leftists like Hassan are saying that Israel's a Jim Crow style society.
Like it's some super racist, like crazy, like Jim Crow style of society. Like, I can't wait to show you guys how beautiful, how multicultural, how like free it feels for people, or just it's a beautiful place. It is. It's one of the most diverse places I've ever been. We're planning to go to
so diverse. It's so multicultural and so diverse. Anyway, if you want to understand why it's ridiculous, obviously this in and of itself is frustrating to hear, okay? It's frustrating to hear what? In response to you saying that Hamas wouldn't kill hostages because they're literally their bargaining chips, he went on to say that they killed the kids because, quote, they didn't want to take care of them. Yeah, I know. It's because everything the Palestinians do are bad. Everything that Israel does, even if it's bad, it was actually in the direction of good, a higher good, okay? Hey, Austin, I was just wondering if you're anti-BDS because apparently it's anti-Semitic, or anti-blockade, despite saying Nelson Mandela and the ANC blocking commerce was based. Anti-JF, Jewish Voice for Peace, calling them a slur. Anti-creators for Palestine because they're not real activism. And also wants to show how non-Jim Crow like Israel is the whitewash the apartheid. Can you still be pro-Palestinian? Asking for a friend. They donated $6,500 one time. Yeah, $6,500 to the fundraiser that I was doing, by the way. You know, the main terrorist guy. So ridiculous. It's so gross to use this ongoing conflict, no matter which side you're on, this ongoing conflict, as a way to drive a wedge, as a way to just be like, this is my own personal petty project. It's always pure projection. When he says you're using the genocide card, it's like, no, man, you're using an ongoing genocide to go after people who are critical of the genocide, because you can't cope with the reality that numerous people from the progressive community that you cultivated obviously had disagreements with the way that you were covering this shit. Also see all this shit, but they don't say anything because they don't want to draw the ire of his rabid fan base who will go after and harass people endlessly. Okay, classic. Hold on, I gotta take Kaya out.
A few of the racist lies Ethan tells in defense of Israel's apartheid regime and their
I don't know what this video is, but hold on, I'm gonna be back in a second. I gotta take Kaya out.
Think that Jews as an ethnic minority in Israel would not be safe?
Jews are the ethnic majority in the UN-recognized territory of Israel. They've been the majority ever since Zionist forces captured 80% of historic Palestine between 47 and 49. In that time, Zionist forces ethnically cleansed 80% of the indigenous population of Palestine. And ever since, Jews have lived as a privileged class in an apartheid state.
After all, Israel is a country of refugees. If the Jews didn't come from Europe after the Holocaust, they came from the surrounding Arab countries.
Jewish settlement and colonization of
this is what I was talking about when he said, like, 1 million Jews were forcibly expelled from surrounding Arab nations. Like, how ridiculous to make that comparison to the Nakba while simultaneously undermining the crime of ethnic displacement of over 750,000 Palestinians. Ridiculous. Pro-Palestine my ass. Once again, I ask everyone, is Ethan Klein stupid and not knowledgeable? about the history of this country that he's defending? Or is he in bad faith doing propaganda? Historical revisionism. The expulsions that were planned according to Israeli, well, I believe he's no longer an Israeli citizen, but Israeli scholar Ilan Pape were planned, okay? They were planned. The expulsions were planned, okay? They did a lot of violence in villages that had cooperative agreements with surrounding Israeli villages, specifically so that it would be easier to forcibly expel the other Palestinian villagers in other villages and also large cities. This was all a plan before the inception of the Israeli nation state. This is a fact that even people who are now pro-Israel, like historian Benny Morris, agrees to. This is an established fact amongst the new historians in Israel. Okay? The difference between someone like Benny Morris, however, and someone like Ilan Pape or Avi Shleim is that Benny Morris establishes that fact and says now that it was good that it happened. It had to happen. Okay? There is a major difference between that and working on Avi Shleim, another Iraqi-Israeli historian, Avi Shleim, and his work on the matter of what happened to the Jews in Iraq, specifically, where the Israeli government literally blew up synagogues in an effort to create pressure amongst the Iraqi Jewish population. Many of these Arab nations did not want the Jewish populations to leave. Okay? They were either cut separate agreements with outside pressure if they were, under the protectorate of France, for example, or cut deals specifically with the state of Israel. And on top of that, there was still a lot of violence that Jews experienced in these countries due to pan-Arabic nationalism at the time, and also due to the violence that the early Zionist brigades enacted upon the Palestinian villagers. Okay? The notion that this is in any way, shape, or form comparable to the planned expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians from their ancestral homelands is ridiculous. It is akin to genocide denial, okay? The fact that, maybe Ethan doesn't know that, to be fair. To be fair to him, maybe Ethan does not know that, okay? But he should not be so confident in saying something so ridiculous, such as the expulsion of Jews from Arab countries, from surrounding Arab countries, was worse than the Nakba, okay? Incredible levels of stupidity. Why is it that Palestinian organizations have actually, in their negotiations process and on numerous different instances, advocated for Israelis to have a right to return to surrounding Arab nations? Now remember, these surrounding Arab nations are not Palestinian, okay? Just make no mistake, because I know that a lot of Zionists like to say all Arabs are the same. They are not, okay? Each individual nation is different than one another, okay? Just so you understand. But the Palestinian delegation has time and time again advocated for Jews to be able to return back to Morocco if they choose to do so, or return back to Iraq or Afghanistan or any other Arab nation where Jews used to live. The Israeli government is not on board with that. I wonder why. Thank you for the 50 gifted subs, Haplois.
Palestine began in the 1800s, well before World War II, and the refugees to which Ethan refers actively participated in massacring and ethnically cleansing the indigenous population of Palestine. The point Ethan is making is akin to claiming that the white Afrikaners of South Africa or pilgrims in America who arrived as poor people with nowhere else to go should be seen as victims despite their colonization of the land and extermination of the indigenous population.
Can you please elaborate on how Nakba is worse than the expulsions from Middle Eastern countries? My Jewish best friend does the exact same argument. I already did. One is a planned expulsion through terror of ethnic Palestinians from their ancestral homelands that Israel wanted to develop a nation state on top of. The other is literally goaded by the Israeli state because it benefits their settler colonial agenda, okay? And yes, there were expulsions on top of that, or not expulsions necessarily, But there were crimes, hate crimes against Jews that took place too, of course, born out of the violence that all of these other Arab nations had seen the early Zionist brigades bring on top of the Palestinian population. But the notion that this was like an instantaneous response and that there was mass purges that took place all around the Levant is ridiculous. It was not planned and prepared. And in many instances, Israel itself, because it suited their purpose of settler colonialism, actually urged these governments to expel the Jewish populations. The governments themselves did not want to expel their Jewish populations. Here is Iraqi British-Israeli historian Avi Shalem, one of the new historians from Israel, explaining this. Okay, he wrote an entire book on the subject matter. If Ethan, being someone who is pro-Palestinian and having this massive audience, wanted to actually educate himself on the history of the ridiculous apartheid state that he's trying to defend, poorly, mind you, he could just as easily search this information. So the question remains, why won't he search this information? Why does he go on the attack, especially against others who he knows are not anti-Semitic, people like myself, okay? While there is a sea of anti-Semitism out there, why does he single out someone who has actively combated anti-Semitism over and over again?
Jews were convinced that Israel had a hand in uprooting them. After the 1948 war, there was mounting popular hostility towards the Jews in Iraq. 5 bombs exploded in Jewish sites. The series of bombs created a panic which led more and more Jews to register to leave the country. I met an elderly friend of my mother's, an Iraqi Jew called Yaakov Karkukli, who had been in the Zionist underground. One member of his group, Yosef Basri, a very, very intelligent Jewish lawyer, and his assistant, Shalom Saleh Shalom, were responsible for 3 out of the 5 bombs. Basri's controller was an Israeli intelligence officer named Max Binet, who was based in Tehran.
The Arab expulsions were beneficial for the Israeli state's settler colonial project. Okay? Each individual country has a different history and a different association. But to claim that this was widespread anti-Semitism after Jews had lived in these countries under the protectorate of the Ottoman Empire for centuries is ridiculous. Okay? Because under the Ottoman Empire, Jews had the same rights that Christians did. It was seen as a safe haven for Jews. That's why there are so many Jewish people that historically lived in these Arab nation states. Okay? The idea that like there was mass expulsions or mass pogroms occurring in the Levant is ahistorical, okay? And if you were to turn around and say, oh, well, they had to pay a tax, jizya, okay? Christians did too. Most of the problems against Jewish people under the Ottoman protectorate actually came from Christians regardless. It is ahistorical and ridiculous. This is Ottoman propaganda. These people treated us as second-class citizens in our own country. Okay, first of all, once again, chatter, it's not Ottoman propaganda. It's historical Jewish propaganda then, okay? Because the Ottoman Empire was broadly seen as a safe haven for Jews because Jews were victims of pogroms in the Christian Western European nations, in Europe in general. That is just the truth. And in terms of being considered a second-class citizen, okay, it is the exact same for non-Muslims across the board. I'm not saying this was the most woke, but in comparison to the Inquisition, yeah, it was infinitely better. The notion that there was unimaginable anti-Semitism happening in comparison to the Inquisition is ahistorical, okay? Coexistence with Jews wasn't because of the Ottoman rule. It was under the Arab Caliphate too. Yes. Muslims also paid a tax. They paid a different tax. History of Jews in the Ottoman Empire. Yeah. The existence of Jews in the Ottoman Empire is particularly significant because the region provided a principal place of refuge for Jews driven out of Western Europe by massacres and persecution. Anyway, this isn't a defense of the shit that the Ottoman Empire did. Of course, they're an empire, all right? But in comparison to, it was on the Jewish Chronicle too. What did the Ottoman Empire ever do for us? Quite a lot, in fact. Contrary to the prevailing view, the Turkish civilization had an egalitarian, multicultural outlook which protected Jews. Anyway, before people say, oh, you only read the headlines, I've read this entire article on stream before, okay? Regardless, the only reason why I brought this up is because a lot of people falsely say that there is like a historic, ancient anti-Semitism among the Arab nations, okay? This is not correct. This is completely incorrect. It's a relatively new phenomena that the Western world has very openly passed the torch on after their historic anti-Semitism and their pogroms and the Holocaust. Now they, even in Germany, claim that the woke Muslim radicals are actually bringing anti-Semitism to Germany. Ridiculous.
In fact, there was more Jews displaced than Palestinians during the Nakba. 1 million Jews.
There is zero.
Yeah, I could not believe this is what I meant. This is like insane.
Factual basis to this statement. The Nakba is the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, which took place between 47 to 49. There was no mass displacement of Jews during the Nakba, approaching anything close to 1 million Jews. Jewish emigration from Muslim countries occurred over the course of decades, and Middle Eastern Jews were not expelled by their respective governments or through military force.
The Arab countries got super anti-Semitic against their own Jewish citizenry that had nothing to do with Israel. And as a result, they kicked them
That
out.
had nothing to do with Israel. Like, what are you talking about? People voluntarily left to go to Israel. Like, what do you mean? It's not the entire story, but Jesus Christ.
Out 1 million plus of them and forced them to go the one place they hated the most, Israel. And now those same people that forced them out of their homes are telling them they don't belong there. So if the Jews of Israel are surrounded by Islamic military.
So this also is a really funny point that he made in his content puke, where he brings up Hezbollah and Hamas. Jews are surrounded by their enemies. What the f is Hezbollah or Hamas in 1948? Both Hamas and Hezbollah were developed as not even Hezbollah, but Hamas initially was a literal Islamic charity that turned into a resistance group against Israel. Hezbollah developed as a resistance group against Israeli occupation. Okay? Many, many decades after Israel was even created as a violent settler colonial enterprise. Okay? Absolutely ridiculous statement. Incredibly ahistorical. And not only that, but I'll take it one step further. Okay? In terms of Hamas being a Muslim Brotherhood carve-out and an Islamic charity, Israel itself tilted the scales in Hamas's favor numerous times. Why did Israel do that? Because they correctly predicted that, well, not completely correctly, but they predicted that they would be easier to dominate. They would be easier to destroy because they would be able to get very little Western support as opposed to the secular, Christian, and socialist resistance groups that were under the PLO. Israel tilted the scales in Hamas's favor time and time again because they were worried that the Western world was too sympathetic to the plight of Palestinians when the Palestinians that were speaking about their own victimhood, their real victimhood in the hands of Israel, happened to be socialist, secular socialist, leftist Palestinians. Israel assassinated all of those leaders, okay, including Ghassan Kanafani, who very famously never even held a gun, him and his family members, immediate family members. Now, why would Hezbollah form in Lebanon? Maybe because Israel expelled Palestinians into Lebanon, members of the PLO into Lebanon, And then Israel decided to invade Lebanon. And the Lebanese population was like, okay, well, we have to fight back. What the fuck is this shit? And that's how Hezbollah came into the equation. None of this was there when Israel was invented. And Israel's inception is a violent one. It's just cry, bully, perceived victimhood nonsense. This is pure pro-Israeli propaganda. It's historical revisionism, and it's ridiculous. If you have done any reading whatsoever on the inception of the Israeli state or the inception of the resistance against the Israeli violence in numerous countries around Israel, you would know that this is a ridiculous thing to point to.
Terrorist groups.
Ethan racistly suggests that all Arabs and Muslims should be regarded as the same people. Hamas and Hezbollah never forced Jews out of their homes and did not even exist at the time of the Nakba. These resistance groups formed under Israeli occupation as Israeli forces brutalized, massacred, and dominated their people.
By the way, oh yeah, keep sucking Hamas dick, bitch. I know. Keep refusing to learn about history, man. Keep refusing to learn about history. The funniest part about this is that I have probably poured countless hours of not only research, but commentary by directly talking to academics as well. All of that is readily available on my YouTube. You can watch any number of different videos, okay? But instead, you just plug your ears and go, la, 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 I can't hear you. Okay, it's fine. It's hilarious hearing shit like that when you know anything about medieval history and know how even Al-Andalus in the 700s was noted for giving Jews protections to the point of where most Jews migrated there from Christian kingdoms, which led to a golden age law. Being a historian sucks, man. Yeah. Where does he get his info from? I don't know. I have no idea what his sources are for. It's just him retelling Israeli history.
Is it really that crazy for them to not feel safe as an ethnic minority, even a—
Oh man, the poor Israelis, the ethnic minority. Amazing. Yeah, I wonder why Israelis feel unsafe in this area. You can either look at the situation and go, it's because everyone around us is anti-Semitic and they just hate Jews. Or you can recognize the reality that has unfolded in very obvious ways over the course of the past 15 months, because this is not the first time Israel's behaved in an insanely violent manner. After all, the inception of the Israeli state was a violent one. I'm a third-generation historian, and I've come to the realization that you can educate people on any piece of history, and when they hear one thing they don't like, they just lick their own balls and tune things out. Yeah. Wasn't the whole thing that Israelis don't feel safe? Yeah, of course. This is literally the mindset. Yeah. Israel and Zionism, in its contemporary interpretation, or even in its historical inception, has always been a ethno-religious supremacist project. This is why I say Zionism is a fascist ideology, okay? You can masquerade it as perceived victimhood. You can masquerade it as serious security concerns, but that is the reality. And that is precisely what the Nazis did as well, okay? Nazi ideology didn't just magically exist one day and everyone was like, all right, I guess we hate the Jews now. No, it was a carefully crafted dehumanization mechanism that inevitably led to the Holocaust, okay? For years and years, Nazis first dehumanized Jews with already the existing historical anti-Semitism in the region, okay? And beyond that, they obviously made security concerns all the time. They kept erroneously claiming that Jews were a parasitic force that was dominating both the aspects of labor through trade unions and through Judeo-Bolshevism, but also simultaneously they were controlling the money supply in the highest state of society, and also the academia, because they were elites that were making Germany a morally degenerate hellhole to undermine German superiority. This was the argument. We look back at that argument and say, well, that was ridiculous that they said that. Except the lesson that you're supposed to learn from that is to not repeat it. Okay? You're supposed to understand how ridiculous and how violent that endeavor ended up, and then go, we should definitely not repeat that ever again. Instead of repeating the same talking points, but instead of saying it about Jewish people, you now say it about Arabs. It's ridiculous. Nazis made arguments about their own security considerations as well. It was erroneous. It was ridiculous.
A little bit.
Israel is by far the most aggressive state in the Middle East, constantly seizing land from neighboring countries and waging large-scale massacres. Israel itself has not withstood anything resembling the level of violence it has brought against the people of Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria. These are not the actions of a state that feels unsafe as an ethnic minority. These are the actions of a hyper-aggressive, expansionist European colony backed by the most powerful empires in history.
And that's pretty much the entirety of our disagreement.
This was not the entirety of Ethan's disagreements. Ethan denied IDF war crimes like rapes.
How is this systemic rape as part of the institution of Israel?
And the bombing of hospitals.
And I'm relieved to say that it was looking like right now almost certainly not the IDF. And I think everybody should be relieved to know that. Ethan, this is extremely painful to hear. Well, I'm sorry that it's painful to you that the IDF didn't kill a bunch of people in that hospital. My condolences to you. You're spreading propaganda, Ethan. You're a moron.
Ethan and his wife, Ela, who served in the IDF, bragged about Ela invading the West Bank and terrorizing the local population.
A base that was far from my house, so you go there for the whole week. It was kind of like just more of an adventure. They would go every night on a raid.
Right.
In Ramallah. So one time I wanted to go with them.
Every sentence he says is fact-checked. Yeah, literally every single thing he mentioned is wrong. I could not believe it. I'm not talking about this piece here, but to
experience it.
By the way, service is mandatory in Israel, okay? I want to point that out. And as someone with of veterans in his community, I've always been understanding of people who have gone and served in the American military, and I've even talked to IDF veterans as well. My problem is what you currently are saying, okay? Not what you have done in the past, but instead what you chose to do after. Because if you served, especially when there's, mandatory service, that's one thing. Your takeaway from that experience probably should be, just like the rest of the Breaking the Silence guys, holy, what are we doing here? This is incredibly violent, okay? If you are conflicted about your service, and you think that it was wrong, then that's one thing. If you're still to this day defending the Israeli occupying force and its actions and the Israeli government, and then every now and then claiming that it was, well, we have some disagreements with Israel, then yeah, you're defending Israel, okay? It's additionally crazy that Ethan also spends more time after this, okay? I'm not going to watch this whole thing. I don't care about this, okay? But Ethan spends the rest of the content puke, I believe, also repeatedly saying that the Yemeni teenager that I also thought might have been a Houthi, because everyone was calling him Timothy Chalamet, a Houthi terrorist over and over again. Okay, that's what's so crazy about this, because if you're a random teenager in Yemen, okay, that other people have branded as a terrorist, when in the process of translation, he says some shit, okay, and then we all collectively misunderstand whether or not he actually took over the boats or not, okay, when we find out later that he did not do that, and that it's a tourism destination, and considering that you're making this video a year after the fact, you had all of the time to fact check this stuff, okay? And you still keep calling this 19-year-old in Yemen, who all he has ever known is genocide, by the way, with American weapons, led by the Saudi and UAE coalition. And you just keep calling him a terrorist over and over again because you saw him hold a gun or have one of those historic knives that people in Yemen have. That's a little ridiculous, don't you think? Like, especially when you're talking about raiding Ramallah. He literally was with the hostages, bro. No, he wasn't, dumbass. He was not. He was not. That video is not even from the Galaxy leader, okay? You're wrong. It doesn't matter. I don't even care. I don't even care if he was. That's the other problem here, okay? I don't even care if he was a part of the Ansar Allah movement or if he was an active combatant. I would have interviewed him differently if he said he was. But having said that, what I care about is, what I get angry about is people just like routinely lying about something that is so easily verifiable. Okay? Anyway, what's the rest of this?
People's efforts.
Like a lot of people.
City.
Ela called.
Feel like a normal neighborhood?
No, it actually looked like a nice city.
Ela called Yoav Gallant a really good guy after a year of overseeing a genocide.
Just the other day, Bibi fired.
Yes, they docked the ship and then they allowed the residents to come on board and tour it. Yes. The 19-year-old didn't actually go out to sea and overtake the ship. Okay? Even if he did, look, he didn't tell me that, okay? What is this? Ethan Klein's community calls raids on families in the West Bank.
2 years that I served in.
Ethan Klein's community calls raids on families in the West Bank justify police action. The raids violate international law. They're meant to terrorize the population. H3 radicalizes viewers into racist extremists. Compare the soldiers' description of raids to Gila's. Because people keep bringing it up, here's a clip where Gila talks about the one raid she went on as a ride-along. No, she was not out there murdering people nightly. And Ethan and Gila even talk about how it was a complex situation, and while they were justified policing actions, they can also understand the fear and frustration of the Palestinians. This is from 2017, by the way, not new information. Yeah, justified police action.
Which is very different than defending Israel.
You can apply for it, and it's a
all the time. In front of me was not any more human being. Yeah.
That I like. A base that was far from my house.
Were you revolted by what you had witnessed?
Yeah, definitely yes.
It was kind of like just more of an adventure.
Every Palestinian in front of me was not any more human being like me. Was an enemy, a potential terrorist.
You went on like a mission with them to like a terrorist city?
Yeah.
If Palestinians will get the feeling that the IDF is all the time everywhere, they'll be afraid to attack. So what do you do to give them this feeling? You make your presence felt. You start your night shift patrol.
They would go every night on a raid.
Right.
In Ramallah. So one time I wanted to go with them just to experience it.
Break into a house, Palestinian house, of course. Not a house we have intelligence about. I'm the sergeant, I lead the patrol, I choose a random house.
I walked with them to one house.
Wake up the family, men one side, women the other side. Search the place, you can yourself imagine the dynamics, yeah?
You see people in the house, and then it's like the soldiers just walk into the house and look through their shit.
Jump from one roof to another, come out through another house, wake up family, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It didn't stop.
Yeah, this is a practice of deliberately terrorizing the Palestinian population in occupied Palestinian territory in direct contravention of international law, just so you understand. Make no mistake, okay? This practice was done specifically to terrorize the Palestinian population of Ramallah and to always be active, okay? To always, what's the term for it? There's a specific term for it, and I think he mentions it in this interview. I'm gonna misremember it, but that right there is terror. That right there is purposely done to terrorize the civilian population of Palestinians, okay? No, not panopticon. No, there is a specific military term for it, and no, mowing the lawn is the Israeli practice of blowing up Gaza. I forget what it's called. Anyway.
For 1 second.
Does it feel like a normal neighborhood?
No, it actually looked like a nice city.
The idea is that every Palestinian will feel the military is right here. It's to do what we call in the military, ליצור תחושת נרדפות, to create the feeling of being persecuted. This is not an action of a rogue soldier or officer. This is your mission. There is no way of doing it nice.
People are so easy to judge Hila for doing mandatory service in Israel, right? Everybody goes, I would have objected. I would have chosen to go to jail and be ostracized by society.
That's not even my expectation. Like, that's literally not my expectation. Okay? I have also literally talked to I've talked to people who refused to serve and even went to prison in Israel. Okay. Conscientious objectors like Tal, if you remember. And I've talked to IDF veterans as well, who then became conscientious objectors, who are members of the Israeli Knesset. For me, what you say now matters a lot more. Yeah.
Took me with them one time, even though they're not supposed to, because it was not my job. They did it just because I asked and I'm cute.
You asked and because you're cute?
Is it possible for an Israeli soldier to serve in the territories with a clear conscience?
I don't believe a soldier who served in the occupied territories has clean hands. It's not that every soldier murders innocent Palestinians, but no Israeli soldier who served in the occupied territories, his hands are clean after that. Because at the heart of what you do, there is no way of seeing Palestinians as equal human beings.
Anyway, the point is, this person is also an Israeli occupying force veteran, okay? But I have a lot of grace for people who understand what they did and then use that experience to warn others about what the Israeli occupying force is doing. This is what breaking the silence does. That is their entire job. Okay? Was the word you're looking for called mapping? No, it's when they go into a house and they just like break into the house and turn it around, turn it over, and terrify the Palestinians in the house. I think it's called like an outpost. Like it's called like outposting or something. But the other term I was looking for is, yes, making their presence felt. That is the deliberate reason. Yeah. The point and purpose is making their presence felt. That's why they do it nightly. Anyway, it's a common practice within occupying forces. I mean, Americans do it too.
A really good guy that a lot of people are pissed about, and he fired him because they had a disagreement, and that's like so Trump code.
He was like a moderating voice in the war room.
Yeah.
Like even this stuff, like saying Yoav Golan is a moderating voice when he's literally charged by the International Criminal Court for being a war criminal. Okay, I'm willing to entertain the notion that you just simply don't know. But my problem in that situation is like, you have a massive audience, man. You have a massive audience. Don't you think you have a responsibility to at least learn the truth? Like, what the fuck are you doing? It's crazy to me that Ethan did more research scouring the Sex Pestiny subreddit, looking for clips out of context to create this like comprehensive argument that virtually no one, with the exception of his own community and already pre-existing haters of mine, loved. Okay? The remaining members of his community. He spent more time researching that shit than reading a single book about Israel.
You know, people's efforts to smear him because he wasn't like anti-genocide enough.
Fuck Joe Biden. Respectfully.
That's fine. I personally think he was actually a really good president. The funny thing about me, I don't like terrorism, and I don't like terrorists. What is terrorism? It's intentionally targeting civilian population for political goals.
Oh, he's gonna call out the IDF here, right? I assume.
Ethan and Hila literally bragged on their podcast about terrorizing Palestinians in the West Bank.
You see people in the house, and then it's like the soldiers just walk into the house and look through their shit.
Does it feel like a normal neighborhood?
No, it actually looked like a nice city.
Now, just how little rights do women in Houthis Yemen have? Well, according to this, there's been 1,181 violations committed by Houthi rebels against women.
According to this? What is this?
This was the other thing that I was going to mention. He just cynically puts article titles to beef up the actual argument that he's presenting. And virtually every argument, if you look at the year, you're like, wait a minute, 23/02/2021. That's an interesting time to be writing about Yemen and what the Houthis were doing in Yemen. And then you actually look at it, and it's Saudi propaganda. Okay? Here, let's look this up. Yemen, women captives. Yemen, women captives recall ordeal in Houthi prisons. Where is it?
This. Ethan doesn't indicate the source of this information. Instead, he cites dubious, often Saudi-funded sources, making claims like the Houthis brought back slavery.
They brought back slavery.
You think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Houthi would do?
The problem...
Wait, slavery in Yemen by Al Jazeera World? There is no way he posts that without actually looking at the video, right? Exclusive. Houthis restore slavery in Yemen. Anadolu Ajans. This is the Turkish state media. Yemen. Women captives recall ordeal in Houthi prisons. The 3 Yemen-based human rights organizations have accused Iran-backed Houthi rebels of committing civil rights violations amounting to war crimes. A joint report issued by these groups has documented 1,181 violations against women that include murder, torture, enforced disappearance, and sexual violence. Wessam Basindoa, director of the 8 March Yemeni Union Women, one of the authors of the report, said that women and children in particular suffered. The report aims to shed light on the types of violence. The report has documented 274 cases, quoting testimonies of released prisoners like Nazma Mohammed. The report claimed that she was kidnapped on March 24th, 2019 by Zainabiyat, a women's military group established by the Houthis. She's currently receiving treatment in Cairo. Bro, the video was a legit fact check. You're double fact checking. During the interrogations, providing coordinates for Arab coalition being an agent of America and Israel, shocking facts about sufferings. Where does the report come from? What is the human rights group that has made this report? Because I know the exclusive Houthis restore slavery in Yemen article actually comes from a Saudi outlet. Like, this is literally just a random Saudi outlet that said that. Bad empanada fact check.
So I just want to make some shorter clips here, going over some of the most egregious parts of Ethan. Interesting claim, isn't it? So let's check Saudi-backed, because it's like citing the Yemen army saying this.
Yemen army removes 300,000 Houthi landmines in liberated areas. Slavery in Yemen is definitely like slavery by Saudi-backed elements being resisted by the Houthis law. Yeah, the slavery in Yemen, I'm pretty sure the Al Jazeera word slavery in Yemen video that came out was literally talking about how the Saudi-backed administration was doing slavery in Yemen and not the Houthis or the Ansar Allah that was doing slavery in Yemen.
With these claims is there's no credible independent organization that...
Yeah, Al Jazeera one is from 2014 and is the group prior to the Houthis that did slavery. Like, if you look at this, it's from 2014, dog. Slavery in Yemen. Despite government denials, this investigation uncovers evidence of slave labor in Yemen. It's in 2014. You addressed this already, by the way? I think you forgot. No, I've addressed this thing that people claim, and I'm not in the business of defending the Houthis anyway, with the exception of the actions that they took against the Israeli genocide. That's it. Having said that, however, oh yeah, this is the article that I remember, the Ashkar al-Sad exclusive, Houthis restore slavery in Yemen. This is literally just a random Saudi propaganda piece that wrote this article while they were doing a genocide in Yemen. It is a Saudi paper owned by Arabic International newspaper headquartered in London, a pioneer of the offshore model in Arabic press. The paper is often noted for its distinctive green-tinted pages. Although published under the name of a private company, Saudi Research and Marketing Group, the paper was founded with the approval of the Saudi royal family and government ministers and is noted for its support of the Saudi government. The newspaper is owned by Faisal bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, a member of the Saudi royal family. The article that he's using is literally a Saudi royal family owned propaganda paper that literally released this report literally while they were doing a famine in Yemen, okay? They had a blockade and a man-made famine in Yemen. Thank God they were liberating the restoration of slavery in Yemen by killing everyone in Yemen. Dude, wait, that's a weird coincidence. How can you be sure? What do you mean? Wait, wasn't he using the Turkish site? Yes, the Turkish site will also, the Turkish state apparatus is also going to use the same sourcing. Remember, the Turkish government is a NATO government. Hello, the Turkish government is pro-Israel. Regardless of what Recep Tayyip Erdogan says, if you are unfamiliar with how these things work, for example, that's why you come to me and I describe to you how this stuff works, okay? That's my job. What the Turkish government says and what the Turkish government does are entirely different things, okay? The Turkish government, for example, will claim to be anti-Israel, but the Turkish government will then still continue engaging in shipping with Israel, even after Recep Tayyip Erdogan, in order to quash the masses freaking the out about their existing logistic chain, their supply chain with Israel, will then turn around. Yeah, the Saudi-aligned government of Yemen didn't flee to Riyadh until March of 2015. The Al Jazeera video came out in 2014. Exactly. Saudi Arabia also is a U.S. ally, by the way.
That has verified them. They come straight from Saudi state-funded media, which provides zero evidence to back their claims. To put this in context, the Saudis, with the both the US and UAE spent a decade starving and massacring the Yemeni population. As they murdered hundreds of thousands of Yemeni people, Ansar Allah, also known as the Houthis, were the only resistance to the genocide of the Yemeni people. Yet Ethan uses Saudi state-funded propaganda to push the claim that Ansar Allah are the bad guys.
All right, so these guys are clearly the bad guys.
This is a truly lazy and low-effort form of propaganda. Ethan shows a handful of substanceless headlines about the Houthis published by the same...
Yeah. Also, here's Aldan Marki, who is a Yemen researcher, by the way. I don't want to entertain this whole Houthi slavery nonsense, but it's been going on far too long that I feel compelled to address what is always admitted: historical context and socioeconomic nuance. Yemen is an incredibly poor country, has been so for most of its modern existence. Yemen was never actually allowed to develop as a cohesive, centralized state because the colonial powers in Saudi Arabia saw an interest in boosting and bolstering the socio-political influence of Yemen's tribes as a counterweight to the governments in Sana'a and Aden. The tribal groups still lived according to feudal pre-Republican social norms, and the Republican jurisdiction rarely ever affected them. When Colonel Ibrahim al-Hamdi rose to power in a bloodless coup in 1974, he immediately decided to disband the Ministry of Tribal Affairs in order to limit the authority of the tribes and to unify authority under one central leadership. It worked. Problem was, by doing so, Hamdi had essentially shut off Saudi Arabia's main access to Yemen's state apparatus and had to be dealt with accordingly. He was murdered in 1977 and a puppet figure was installed in his place. At every turn, indigenous Yemeni progress has been stifled and objected by the United Kingdom, the US, and Saudi Arabia. Fact check. Fact check comes from, again, the Saudi... No faction, be it the Houthis or any group, has ever announced an institutional reintroduction of slavery. It is impossible to hold them accountable for the practices of isolated and desperately poor communities in the rural areas. Poverty remains to be the primary reason for these phenomena. So this actually goes through the fact that there is still slavery practiced in certain tribal areas, but given that there has never been real centralization, that it has never been legal. It hasn't been legal since 1962. But, you know, when you're getting genocided and crude all the goddamn time, it's a little difficult to control that sort of thing. But the notion that the Houthis that actually restored the practice of slavery is an exclusive born out of this Saudi royal family newspaper. I wonder why they wrote this article while they were, you know, I wonder why they wrote this article while they were starving the Yemeni population. This isn't to say that the Houthis are wonderful people either, mind you, okay? For me, their domestic affairs, especially given the material conditions in Yemen, born out of imperialism and born out of unimaginable poverty that you will never, ever in a million years be able to even comprehend, okay? Ironic because the Saudis also literally do practice slavery, but that's besides the point. I'm not going to get into that, okay? But the notion that like they're definitely going to clip this so it looks like you're defending the Houthis. I don't care, okay? The only defense of the Ansar Allah movement that I will ever give the Ansar Allah movement is in defense of their blockade and the implementation of a blockade in the Red Sea in order to stop Israel, in order to cripple Israel financially, which was successful, and to stop Israel from doing a genocide. The blockade ended when the ceasefire began. They even released the hostages, which ironically enough, Ethan doesn't feature in this video either. But it doesn't matter. He's like, oh, nobody knows what happened to the hostages. Oh, okay.
Forces which have been genociding the people of Yemen, and then states that they, not us, are clearly the bad guys. In Ethan's world, committing genocide against Arabs and Muslims is worthy of praise, as in Joe Biden or Yoav Gallant. But resisting genocide...
He says that you're dodging and the source does not matter when the facts are there. This is what him and Dan were saying about the Reddit article. It's the crazy level of propaganda on that channel. That's insane, dude. What do you mean? The source